Hello and welcome, Dangerlings. It's Wednesday, and that means it's time to get dangerous. Oh! And we've got a special stream for you tonight. It is myself, of course, James Foxy Lockhart, who is your host. But tonight, I am joined by a very, very special guest. The ineffable, the indestructible, the indescribably lovely Naomi!
None of this is true.
None of this is true. It is all true. It is all true. So welcome, Naomi. Thanks so much for coming on Dangerous Wednesdays. We don't have Dan tonight because Dan is doing something else. What? So, yeah.
I believe he has a life outside this podcast. But
life?
Reports have been greatly inflated.
Yeah, I think so. I mean, do any of us have lives anymore? I don't think we do. I think it's all a mystery and a complete sort of, misnomer that there was anything beyond these four walls that we exist. But speaking of these four walls, how are you doing, Naomi? How are you doing?
I am good. I'm good. We've been making Christmas decorations because store-bought is fine. But we really didn't have any, so we got some baubles, and then we were like, we're gonna make clay Christmas decorations. So we started with Santas and bells and like little Christmas trees, and then we just slowly divulged from the Christmas theme. So we have a Christmas Medusa, we have a Christmas Cyclops.
Oh yes.
We have a Christmas frog and a Christmas gecko. It's very enjoyable.
Oh my god!
Now we're painting them.
This sounds amazing. Why the sort of Greek mythology?
So I did classics, and so did my flatmate. So it's one of the things. We also have an amphora with red figure ground on it, which is quite good.
Of course you do. How terrific!
Where is my free toy?
Where is my free toy? Hello, B Daddy. Thank you so much for joining us. I'm really glad you were tickled by that line. It just sort of came to me. And you were very generous, might I say. If you haven't checked it out already, the Things in Space sort of stream we did for Dragon Meat on Naomi's stream channel. It was great fun. I had such a good time. Thank you so much, and you were excellent DM.
Thank you. It's one of those things where I know lots of people who are really excellent, like world building GMs, and I'm just like, I've written the word hamburger crab. And that's it. Here we go.
I think we've spoken about this before on the show. I think every sort of DM or GM has had that moment where they're like, "Okay, time to prepare the game."
Sexy goblin?
Yeah.
Question mark?
Sexy goblin, small hat. There we go. Good. This is going to be
Sorted.
A banger. No, it was very, very good and lots of fun. He's lovely. That is, of course, sort of B Daddy. Lots and lots of love. How are you guys doing out there today? Of course, do let us know on the chat and say hello. But that sounds awesome. I love the fact of making your own Christmas decorations because usually it's always the handmade ones that stand out on the tree, isn't it? Because you get all the usual turt and baubles and stuff. But yeah.
Well, we're both having that experience because obviously I'm from New Zealand, which is why I have this funny voice. And my flatmate used to live in Korea. So we're sort of at the point where it's like, we have a Christmas tree. We don't have any decorations. And it's like, I guess, what if we just fucking went with it? And 10 out of 10, that is the way to go.
That's right. You heard it here first. Christmas, just fucking go for it. Just go with it. I love that. I love the cultural mashup as well. So Korea, New Zealand coming together. What do you reckon the archetypal ornament of a mashup between Korea and New Zealand would be?
I think it'd probably be kimchi over a flip flop, if I had to choose.
Kimchi over a flip flop.
In New Zealand, we wouldn't call it a flip flop because it's called a jandal.
A jandal.
They're called jandals.
Jandals? Oh my...
J sandals, your jandals.
Wow. I did not know this. I know that the Australians tend to call them thongs.
We don't do that. We do have a very excellent advertising scheme called Undies Undies Togs, because togs is the word for swimming costume in New Zealand.
Oh.
And they have this ice cream advert where there's this guy and he's walking around in a pair of budgie smugglers and they're like, if you can see the sea, they're togs. Otherwise, they're undies. And they just have a little voice going, undies, undies, undies. Like when you can't see the sea and then a truck moves and you can see the sea and it's like, dogs! It's like the most New Zealand thing that's ever happened.
Amazing. I'm learning so much about culture. Hello, Ross. Yeah, I did get your message literally like as I was clicking going live. So maybe.
We just decided that we didn't want you. I'm sorry.
Well, we could put it to a vote. Maybe have a surprise Yeah, we did. We could have a surprise sort of like visit from the Rossmeister Prime later on if the Denjing so wanted to. Well, you missed out, Ross. That is the harsh words of B Daddy. So what we could do now, normally at this point of the show, we do news. So should we cut into it? Here we go. Here's the stinger. Danger Club and Danger News. It's not Danger Club news at all. It's just Danger News. There we go. It's a work in progress. Danger News. So I have a sort of a piece of news which won't surprise anyone in the gaming world, and that is finally Cyberpunk 2077 is about to be released. Oh my goodness, it has been a long time coming, and the expectation, I would say, is pretty damn high. So how are you feeling about it, Naomi? Because I know that I've been watching it hungrily for what seems like years.
Yeah, well, I'm quite tuned into video game news. So the video game drama that has come out is like, you can be a trans person because like genitals and everything else is kind of unmatched from pronouns and who you are and etc.
Good.
Which is pretty cool.
That's really cool.
That's a step in the right direction.
Absolutely.
A lot of people reported they were like women, men, and trans people, and you're like, no, not like that.
No.
Thank you. No, thank you.
No.
And then, have you heard all about this seizures stuff that's been coming out?
No. I mean, Ross has put very buggy into the chat.
Very buggy.
I'm guessing
they're
you're
doing.
So I was just going to say, Ross,
they have a bit that is like flashing, and it causes people who have photosensitive epilepsy to have seizures, and they're like, no, we built it like that, and you're like, no.
Oh.
So.
Did they not think about this? Because, I mean, epilepsy warnings have been on games forever. Like, I remember old, like, Master System games and stuff being like, hey, dude, I have epilepsy. Because, that's what you should do. Wow, okay. How about the sort of, I mean, obviously, Ross has said it's very buggy. I haven't, there are lots of people streaming at the moment on Twitch. Obviously, don't go and watch right now. Keep watching this. I'm kind of wanting to see how it pans out. And I don't know. I
feel like I'm into the idea.
Oh, I love the idea.
Know?
Yeah, I'm so down with, my cyberpunk and things like that. That was the future I was promised. A neon-drenched, sort of androgynous kind of like world of technology and things like that.
And obviously, you're doing your best to bring that to us.
I am.
But it can't just be one man.
I know, right? Exactly.
Oh, they put out an apology for that and a fix in the works for the epilepsy.
Right.
Nice.
Good,
Thank you.
Well, that's...
I don't have to feel bad about being like, yeah, it looks pretty cool.
No. And of course, any game has going to have these teething problems. And also another thing, of course, that Night City, where Cyberpunk 2077 is based, is supposed to be vast. It's very, very big. But they say the day version are very buggy. This was something I was a bit afraid of. I mean, can you think of any...
Crunch. We're going to talk about crunch and how crunch is rubbish.
Crunch, okay.
Get rid of it.
I tell you what, let's talk about crunch. I personally enjoy crunching things, but I'm guessing that's not what you're talking about.
So crunch is like a video game industry term when they're like, hey, you know what? You should sign up, and when the game is due to release, we should let you work all the hours, but not give you more money. Should just be not a thing anymore. Like,
yes,
I'd rather wait a little bit of time.
Yes, exactly.
Get the game like a couple of months later and not be like, wow, the people who made this are very sad.
Yeah, and actually, as you've described it, I have heard of crunch, because also there's been a lot of controversy about the video game world, about basically the kind of I mean, I hesitate to use sort of sweatshop because that's not a fair comparison. It's not like that. But these kind of, very, very severe ethoses, and the fact that, well, you just, the game's about to be released, so you better put in every single hour you've got, and then if it doesn't go right, we're going to come down you like a ton of bricks. Apparently, that's the general ethos for a lot of the big developers, which sounds pretty crap, to be honest.
I think it's just time for us to move past this idea that, employees have rights to just be like, well, this is just how the industry is, so work for no money.
Yeah,
like,
surely
exactly. We're past this point now.
Be
it's
grateful
like we're all
for a
working
job.
from home. We're like, actually, no, this is my house, and I say goes. So get out.
No, exactly. It is. Yeah, it's as you say, just turning around being like, that's the way it is. Because also there's a lot of arguments about, I do appreciate that these days the budget and the amount of time that's needed to produce like AAA titles is vast. But at the same time, don't release a janky piece of mess that isn't finished and just be like, oh, well, we'll patch it in a bit. It's like, no.
We'll fix it later.
Yeah, exactly. And it's all to do with sort of apparently shareholders and market projections and all this kind of stuff.
Capitalism.
Capitalism, yeah, thank you. That's the word I was.
The enemy is always capitalism.
Exactly, and it's fine if something's early access because you know what you're getting, except for the games that never finish early access.
Ross is like, you would get my thoughts if you let me join.
I mean,
no,
never.
You had your chance.
We might do, but just for the moment, because obviously it's going to jank up my beautiful arrangement there. I'm looking at it right now.
The overlay's already.
It's all ready. It makes it all go funny. So Cyberpunk 2077. I'll be interested to find out how it is. Apparently, Keanu in it is very wooden.
That's what he's good at, though.
Yeah,
I mean, he's cornered the market on like Stoic Man.
He is an adorable plank,
repressing his feelings.
Yes, exactly. He always has been, and always will, and he'll always be here because he is the eternal man. He literally, he will outlast us all. Now, in terms of, I think we had another news item. Did you not have a news item, Naomi?
I did have another news item.
Oh, wow.
There's a group of micro RPGs that are coming out that I would encourage you to get. So loads of great people in sort of the RPG podcaster streamer community have released it, and it's all like itty bitty stuff that you can do sort of like in your home during lockdown. And it's done by James D'Amato, who is not a vegetable, but he did the Ultimate RPG backstory guide. If you've ever bought like dice or D&D stuff on Amazon, you will get recommended this, basically guaranteed. And Ultimate RPG gameplay guide, and he also runs the One Shot podcast as well as like other bits and pieces.
Sweet. Okay.
I have a link.
So buzz a link in the chat. Obviously, that sounds very interesting. Now, just because obviously we like a level playing field in this corner of the internet, what is a micro RPG? So what can people expect if they sort of want to embark upon one of these things?
So unlike your big RPGs such as Pathfinder, you're going to find something that's very small on setup. It's going to be one really like core concept that you just sort of run with, and doesn't require a lot of setup, doesn't require a lot of bits. It'll probably be like 2 pages. But it's really good. It's a really fun way to sort of play and just kind of get into playing if you don't have that many people or a lot of time.
So is this the same as a sort of, because we were talking about some of the lovely Fiona from What Am I Rolling said about...
I'll bring my mic close to my face.
Oh,
How's
yes.
That? Is that better?
That's
Sorry,
nice.
that's my fault for sitting away from
up
my
her mic a little. I tell you what, I can... No, I can't. You get so used to being
close to my mic.
It's like, hang on a second, I've got a slider for this, but it's already at max, so sorry, but I can't actually do anything about that.
That's all good.
And we want to hear your delightful voice. Fiona was talking about things like 1,000-Year-Old Vampire and these sort of one-player RPGs. Is it similar? Sounds similar.
Yeah. I really like like 2-player RPGs because I think 1-player RPGs require a little bit more focus than I maybe have available to just like sit down and like write a story. If I'm going to sit down and write a story, then I should just work on all the scripts that I have to write. But I really enjoy, there's a really good 2-player RPG that I always recommend, which is called Starcrossed. So if you've heard of Dread, which is like a Jenga-based system for a horror game, and anytime you do something dangerous, you pull a Jenga block. And if the Jenga
Yes.
tower goes, you die.
Yes, Fiona was.
StarCraft is like that,
Yeah, Fiona
but
was
for
totally.
Switch.
Oh, what? Wait, what?
Sorry.
Because it's what? For
So,
Switch.
you're two people who are desperately in love, but they cannot be together.
Oh.
And every time you do something that increases your affection, you pull a block. And if the tower falls, you act on your feelings.
Oh my God. That sounds like the least British game I've ever heard.
It's so good. It's so good. But there's also the problem is if you're too good at Jenga, because then you pull a load of blocks and then you get to the end and you're like, oh, we just have to go our separate ways, never having acted on this feeling that we based this whole game around.
Oh my God. What does it mean if you're really good at Jenga, you'll die alone? That's basically.
You'll die alone. Yeah.
Amazing. Well, not amazing, of course. That's terrible, but an interesting. I really like the sound of the whole using a physical thing to sort of run the game. I think because it adds that bit of jeopardy, doesn't it?
And also, it means the tension feels very real because you're like, am I gonna kill this player?
Yeah, exactly, and or just to break their heart. Who knows? Who knows? So there is the link for Simon and Schuster, who do this ultimate micro RPG book. How many RPGs are in that book? Do we know?
I think it's 30 or 40.
30 or 40. Good heavens!
It's a lot of small RPGs. So it's got some stuff from darling Sasha, who works for MacGuffin and Co., who do not only RPGs, but they also do like scene settings. So they create settings like ghost infused cruise ship, which are great.
Their second album was awesome.
And I think it's got 2 Chloe Masheter RPGs on it. So she used to be part of Adventures Wanted, and now she does Roll Flip Stream. So it's got 2 of hers, and hers are really great, like little micro RPGs.
Wow.
So, yeah.
Fantastic. And so obviously Ed has joined the chat. Hello, Ed. Thank you for joining. I think I saw a tabletop episode with the Wheaton that had a similar wooden blocks game skill mechanics. Obviously, I know you don't know all of the games, but is this something that you could sort of play with your kids, or is it something that is sort of adult-based? Or
I think it really depends. Dread is quite a good one. You could still play with your kids as long as they understand what a horror movie is, and it's okay if they die.
Right. Okay, that sounds fair enough.
Yeah. I mean, any game can basically be written for kids as long as you dial down the harm and you increase the fun.
Right. Okay. I mean, that makes sense. That's a top tip, actually, right there from one DM to all of you. So if you want it for kids, dial down the harm and increase the fun.
Questlings is a kids RPG that's just come out that you can also get, which is supposed to be pretty good. If you're looking for kids RPGs.
Yeah, possibly. I'm just thinking because I know that Ed, so you've got a little one, and so a lot of other followers of the podcast and followers of Dangerous Wednesday also have, little ones that it might be quite nice to play some games with, and it's something that, perhaps you want to advance a bit beyond Snakes and Ladders. I mean, does anyone play Snakes and Ladders anymore? I don't know, but I'm sure somebody's probably streaming it right now. But it's nice to play something because some of these games are awesome. Really, really cool.
Yeah, and I think that the fun thing of like playing with kids is they're weird. Like, bless them, they're lovely, but their little brains are so funny.
Yes.
So strange.
So strange.
Sometimes you get things that you can't even be prepared for. I remember when I was like a teenager running one for my young cousins, and it was very basic, like, the king has asked you to go and get this gold from a dragon, and they were like, can I stab the king in the butt? Like, yes. Okay, I stab the king in the butt and I say, take that. Just like, okay, cool. Okay, we're doing a different story.
This is technically treason, don't you? I mean, I don't want to have you hanged, but gosh, it's hilarious. That's so funny.
That's so funny.
Yeah, it makes fun play. And of course, Ed's mentioned Hero Quest. Gosh, I love Hero Quest. And has anyone pre-bought the new edition of Hero Quest that's coming out? Did you hear about this?
Not.
They are rebooting it.
You're getting points for your wings in the chat, just by the way.
Oh, thanks, man. That's very, very kind. Thank you very much. I'm gradually getting better.
I didn't do mine tonight because I didn't have time.
Well, that's okay, because you were fussing Glax. So
I was fussing my gecko.
that is fine, because Glax is absolutely adorable, and we love Glax. But yeah, so it's great to see. I'm really tempted with this book because it sounds like a lot of fun.
I love like a good small RPG. I don't know, have you ever played like Microscope?
No.
Because that's quite fun. So Microscope is like a map drawing game. So you're...
I mean, you've seen Velda's map, haven't you?
No, wait. The Quiet Year. The Quiet Year is a map drawing game. The Microscope is the one with the cards. I apologize.
Okay, good.
So the Quiet Year. So you have a quiet year before like your civilization's going to collapse or end. And you draw like things that exist around your area. So like... so you draw like... there's a cave over here that's magical, and here is an old factory, and then you sort of go through your time and decide what you're going to build and change and what you're not going to have. But the Quiet Year is quite good because it goes off the rails pretty early. Because someone's like, I think that there's a talking dolphin over here, and you're like, this is now the talking dolphin game. Here we go.
And as like so many RPGs, they go completely absurd because people. Yes, hi Greg, thanks for joining us. Glax is an adorable gecko. Well, you can tell us about Glax if you want to, Naomi.
Glax is my little leopard gecko. So she's like 9 months old now. She's yellow and she's got black spots, and she's very personable. And she comes out when I go up to her and I'm like, hello. And she comes out and she eats little worms, and she's very good.
Aww.
Yeah.
Oh, that sounds adorable. One day we'll have to get a guest spot and you'll be able to show us all Glax. Because I've seen some pictures and she looks so cute.
So good.
Yes, and we're just getting a comment here from B Daddy. Holy crap, the mobile Twitch and the computer Twitch difference is crazy. I would imagine the mobile Twitch is behind the computer one. Quite interested to find out though, because it depends on what you're looking at. So yes, interesting news there. I also have one more piece of news, and that is that I got a haircut today. Oh, yeah. And let me tell you, pew, pew, pew. Naomi doesn't know this because she can't actually see my video feed, but I have a nice, smart haircut. And let me tell you, it makes you feel like a new person. And have you done anything in these dark times, Naomi, to pamper, to make yourself feel better?
I got a haircut last week.
Oh.
Just before Saturday's stream, I decided, I was like, I'm going to stream, no one's going to see it, but I'm going to get a haircut. And I went to a barber's. So I have an undercut back here.
No way. Check it out. Nice.
And so the first time I did it, I was like, partner, I want an undercut. And so what my partner heard was, please shave the back of my head until I am bald.
Oh.
Which is obviously not what I had requested.
Right.
And I was quite clear. So the first time I was like, oh, babe, how long have you got the shaver on? He's like, just on 0. And I'm like, oh, Jesus.
Oh.
So, but this was down during first lockdown. So I was like, well, no one's going to see it. Hair grows back. This isn't the end of everything. It's fine. But I've just sort of been doing it during lockdown as we go. And I was like, I want a real fade. So I literally messaged my near barbers on Instagram to be like, I'm a girl, but I want you to shave my head and give me a fade. And they were like, no, that's no problem. We do women's hair all the time. And I was like, okay, cool. So I rock up and I walk in, and just like the place is surprisingly full for like lockdown, and everybody just sort of wheels in their chair to look at me. And they're like, can we help you? And I'm like, I'm here for my appointment. I booked it's in the thing.
Oh no, we've got a frozen Naomi.
Just want to fade. And he's like, oh, okay, I can do that. but the like fear in this man's face of being like, you've come to the wrong place and I cannot help you.
Yeah, it's a bit like the slaughtered lamb from American Werewolf in London, just like, what the funk? Well, I think it looks really cool. And in all seriousness, like, I hope, let us know if any of you Dangerlings out there have, done anything, small things. Because, frankly, this is the age we live in, isn't it? Where it's like, I got a fade. It's like, I got a haircut. This has literally made me so happy. Yay! So hopefully, look after yourself. You deserve a bit of pampering. So you go ahead and do it, whatever it is. Unless it's Ross, in which case, speak to someone first, because it's probably a bad idea. Yeah, well, very much like Who's the Stranger? So that was all the news we've got time for. Well, I don't know if you've got any more news. No,
that's it.
All right, so we're going to move on to the...
Has anything happened? No, I've been inside.
No, we've all been inside. But there's lots happening out there in the gaming world. So Cyberpunk 2077, check out the micro RPG book as well. That looks super, super cool. And also go get yourself a haircut. Does shaving my butt count? With you, most definitely. I mean, the hedge trimmer, I heard, is blunted now. So anyway, well, oh dear, enough about such laddish humour. So we're going to move on to something that we've spoken about before, but we thought it would be quite fun to revisit, and that is rolling up characters, but more from a sort of, I hate to say it, but sort of an artsy side of things. Because what's your background, Naomi? Because I'm an actor. Obviously, everyone knows that. Specialised in improvisation, things like that. So I probably approach characters in a different way. Generally, because we're going to go into a bit more specifics. What sort of thing, when you're approaching a character, do you have a process?
Yeah, I do. So it kind of depends on what I'm making. So quite often I get the idea for okay, we're getting something in the chat that I have to tell you, otherwise you won't mention it. I realise you record in blocks, but this is a request for Naomi to voice all NPCs that come from Patreon in the future. There you go. I have been on the podcast. I played Karen.
Yes.
Which was great, and also so much. I was like, I hope I don't break this whole thing by doing something wrong in the past.
Good heavens. Like, we won't say anything about what it was, because obviously there's no spoilers here, but you were terrific, and that was a very, very good, it was, I can say that it was involved in Shania's backstory. However, we will not say any details about what actually happened, because if you haven't listened to it, check it out. When you get there, you will have a blast. And Naomi, you were terrific. And it's tricky, isn't it, coming into something? Because I remember when I recorded for Power Word Roll, and it's funny how the sort of the different systems that everyone employs when you sort of sit there and you're like, hello, I don't know how you do things, and but yeah, no, you did terrific. Just get rid of Ross. Oh. Yes, of course, Greg, you'll be up to date. So yes, that's right. It's this Naomi. We will also do a little plug at the end. If you can follow her on Twitter and follow on all the other places, Twitch.
But first, character making. Yes,
so well done. It's normally me who has to get Dan back on track,
was the worst,
and now you are getting me back on track. So yes. So do you have a process? Now, I tell you what. Could I divide this into two tiny bite-sized chunks?
Do it.
So a process, one for you as a DM, as a GM, so how you would generate sort of characters in terms of NPCs and stuff like that. And then the second as a player. So
yes.
Which would you want to snaffle first?
Let's start with NPCs, because they're a little bit less complex.
Yeah.
So I tend to think that you should be able to sum up your character in about a sentence. So it should be the something who likes something and hates something, or who wants something. So that's all you really need. So he's a grumpy shop owner who likes frogs and wants to open a second shop. Boom, that is enough. That is enough to cover you with basically all that you need for a scene. So all you really need is an affect, because that tells you how the voice, and then you think about body and stuff.
Yeah.
So if you're doing someone who's nervous, you might bring it up here and pull your shoulders in to close your body up.
Mm-hmm.
Or if you're doing someone who's more confident, you might throw an arm over the back of the chair, laze a bit, and sort of project that sort of sensibility.
Yeah.
And then giving them a job sort of gives them a reason to exist in the scene.
Yes.
So whether that's guard or shop owner, it gives them a set of like duties that they would usually be putting out. And then you just add when I do it, I tend to add a love and a hate, and what they want. So I also make all of my characters do it. So I actually made James do it for Saturday.
You did.
I did. Would you like to tell people what your loves and hates were? Do you remember?
Yes, I do. I do because the basis of Wiggles, he was a sort of amalgamation, or they were. I said he. They're genderless, really. They were an amalgamation of lots of different sci-fi robots. Basically, there was a bit of Crichton in there. There was a bit of a bit of Marvin, a bit of Robbie, a little bit of Vincent as well. Sort of that kind of like, and underlying it all was the fact that the company that made him, Wonkatronics, which never came up because it's it just
sometimes it'd be like that.
No, sometimes it didn't. They had they basically had scrimped on certain elements of him. So his emotional transponder, his encoder was very, very basic and had one setting, whereas his emotional the feelings part of him was they just kept the same chip in there. So he was all the emotions and couldn't really describe them. And so he loved helping other people. What was it now? And he hated something about the pointless.
He hated feelings or something, and he wanted to like die basically.
Yes, he did.
I think I actually messaged you and I was like, are you okay?
You did. And I was like, yes, no. I should point out, he's not suicidal. He's just, he's sort of looking forward to the oblivion that's eventually going to come, so he doesn't have to feel all the feels anymore. Wiggles was in Things in Space. Which was over on Naomi's Twitch channel, which was...
twitch.tv/Naomi Thinks It.
Yes, or maybe pop that in the chat, because then you can go and watch. And it was loads of fun. It was just a little one-shot for Dragon Meat. And we won't give any details away, but it was very silly. And Wiggles Give Me My Free Toy may have been in there somewhere as well. May have been in there. So yeah, I think it's actually really useful. And actually it reminds me very much of a kind of a performance-based approach to character. Where because obviously a lot of people have heard actors talk about sort of what's my direction or what's my what do you want from the scene, because effectively that's quite an easy way to break down human interaction. Everyone comes into a situation wanting something. It could be as simple as I want to sit down, my feet are tired, to I want to get the air, sort of the money I'm owed for being your son for 35 years and you never appreciated me. So and anything in between kind of thing.
So I went to a workshop that had Darling Chloe Master.
Darling
Chloe. Who was talking about, I think, the difference between a waitress who wants to go home and the difference between a waitress who wants tips. And just talking about how you can play into that one thing and changes, like, someone who wants tips, they're telling jokes, they're laughing, they might flirt a little bit, or someone who just wants to go home is like, right, give me a thing, I don't care, I'm tired and I want to go home. And it's amazing how just adding sort of that one dimension really changes the sort of the affect that you create in your head. As a GM, it stops you from just creating lots of people with the same voice. Obviously, my accents were kind of a bit slidey, but that's fine. But
I love a slidey accent.
Keeping the mood is more recognizable than any one voice that you're going to do. You're going to remember a smarmy git every time over someone who's got like a slightly northern accent.
Yes, yeah, exactly. And I think actually, I'm really sort of glad you sort of said that, not about the smarmy git, in terms of sort of a takeaway from it. If somebody is DMing and they're a little bit sort of unsure how to do a character, I guess, as you say, what do they want? And it doesn't, and obviously don't fall into the trap of they want to help the party, because a lot of people wouldn't want to help the party. They'd be thinking, I want to shut up the shop, and you're here, and you could be like, they've just got some bad news and they want to shut the shop up. And it does, as you say, it completely changes it from someone else who's like, I'm open for business 24 hours and I want your money. It's just like, I don't care about your money, I'd like you to go. It's a pity because actually I, sort of from a performance aspect, also find a lot of character comes from costume. So you can be struggling to kind of find it, and then as soon as you put on an outfit, it informs your behaviour because of the way you stand, the way you approach people, and the way people approach you. Obviously, I wouldn't go to that sort of level. Maybe different hats, you know.
I mean, a lot of it I think is just body shape, like the way
Yes.
that you talk. It's just moving your shoulders and hips in different ways changes the way that you talk all the time.
Yeah.
And
So
I think that's also a thing about voices, because I know a lot of new DMs are like, oh, I can't do accents or I can't do voices. Don't really need to. Like, there's a lot of way to do voices without doing a voice. So I find that speeding up or slowing down is a really good way to make something very distinct.
yes. Yeah.
So the difference of a character who talks like this and the difference of a character who talks like this, like that's the same accent, it's the same voice, it's just sped up or slowed down.
Yes.
That's really it.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think as well, observe the stereotypes we hold in society, because they're often, obviously, they are stereotypes. They are a pastiche of many, many different types of people, but they're also quite well informed for a swift character, as you say. If you want someone a little bit down and dirty, you just drop your head. You can't see me. You can hear what I've done. I've dropped my head down between my shoulders, and all of a sudden you're a bit like what you will like that, and then of course you stand up very tall, and it brings you up, and you're speaking a bit more. And that's that's a really good tip, a little actor's tip, just to do that. And it sounds a bit silly because you're like, oh yeah, but everyone, that's a bit of a stereotype. It doesn't matter.
It's instantly recognizable as the kind of character you need it to be.
Yeah, exactly. And this is the party's just bumped into someone a bit dodgy down a back alley. You just want to give some information. This isn't someone who's going to be there forever, sort of thing.
We've had a question in the chat, which is, how do you keep yourself from revealing plot lines you've already played and haven't been published yet?
Oh, very interesting. What? I see. I see. So, in terms of sort of stuff we know about the future plot,
Yeah.
it's one of those things that for myself, and I try and kind of forget it once I walk out of the room. So you sort of do the session, and it's no surprise, we've spoken about it before, we do record in blocks because obviously it's difficult enough to get a bunch of casual players around the table, let alone sort of, 6 busy performers and creatives. I'm sure it's the same with Power Word Roll. So you can smash out a bunch of episodes. We obviously always stop when it's like either timing or we're like, nah, we're too tired, because we'd rather it was really good than just like, oh yeah, but we did 10 episodes today, but they were bunkum. But I tend to, my own personal thing is just kind of forget about it. How about you, Naomi?
I gaslight my fans. That's what I do. So we had an episode that you were in where there was a character death. And this is posted now. It's fine. It's not a big deal. And we keep live character sheets that our patrons can access. And so one of our patrons is like, this character has vampire written on it, and I was just like, no, it must be a mistake. And so like she kept bringing it up. She was like, so weird, I don't know why Annie did that. And I'm like, me neither. And then when the episode came out, she like called me to yell at me and be like, I can't believe you gaslit me for 4 months.
Amazing, worth it. That's classic Annie.
Just like, I'm sure she's just figuring out. You sure that's what you saw? I think it's probably just one of those like undead spell things. She's just like, yeah, just like.
Yeah, I mean, we certainly there's not much. There's a couple of things that have come up. Obviously, I'm rigidly anti-spoiler. Just in case anyone is watching who is tuning in and hasn't listened to either the DCP or Power Word Roll, then yes, there are a few things in there. And also, I'm very much of a classic. Like, I don't even want to know someone's opinion about a film before I go and see it. You know what I mean? It's like, oh, but I just thought it was pretty. No. I love going in blind. Like, if I could just walk in with a bag on my head and like with earmuffs on, and then literally they'd whip the bag off and the film would start. That would be ideal. That'd be great. I don't want anything. How about you? How do you feel about sort of things like that? Are you quite fast and loose with details?
We're quite fast and loose with details, mostly because there's 4 of us and we're all idiots. So so it's like it's kind of one of those things that like it just sort of happens occasionally. Like for me, I'm more likely to do stuff that you can tell from the title. So, because we did a series where each episode was themed. So being like, wow, we've got a beach episode coming out, can't wait for you to hear it. Like that is kind of the kind of level that I'm comfortable with. And yes, people do know about the podcast because part of doing a podcast is everyone you know knows about it. And some friends I've actually made because I knew them before the podcast, and then they found the podcast and they were like, I am your friend now. I listen to your podcast.
Wow.
Which is kind of it's kind of a weird dynamic because obviously you have been times and they've heard hours and hours and hours of your edited personality. You know?
Yes, I do.
But
Yeah, because you because slightly different technique with Power of Roll, where you tend to record a sort of quite a lot and then cut sort of chunks out. We
have to edit it because one of our team is just so horrendous that if we didn't edit him, we would get shot. So.
Fair enough.
But we're quite open about that on the podcast and who it is.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And if you can always make it a thing, as you have, so something you're doing. Ross is in the chat, of course, and he's saying that he doesn't really talk to people outside podcast stuff. What happens in the podcast stays in the podcast. I've got to kind of agree. I mean, most people... It's curious because obviously I think the crossover that B Daddy's talking about is that, of course, we are active on Discords and we love talking to you guys, and we've got these wonderful communities of sort of fans, but it's also everyone's come together, and sometimes it can be hard not to drop something there. And I don't. For me, I've just taken so for Dangerous Wednesdays, I just take the attitude of like I'm assuming that somebody hasn't listened to anything or is on episode 1. And I think that's the best and safest way to do it, to be like, don't assume that but surely you've listened to it. Then maybe not. And, and I love exploring and doing, if you haven't just listened to episode 1, go and listen to episode 1. But yes, and it's nice discussing and things like that. And also, it's lovely when speculation starts coming up and you see an episode drop, because I do this kind of forgetting thing. And then you see all the Dangerous being like, oh, and you're like, oh, cool, it's dropped. And then obviously, it unlocks this information is now safer, a sort of setting. Because it's like, well, it's out there now. Done. Splendid. Well, that's very good. And in terms of a player, would you take the same approach, or would you go a bit more deeper?
So I start with the same approach, but then I add a twist or a flaw, is what I tend to call it.
Yes.
So
twist or flaw.
Yeah. So the one that there's a group who run a world building software whose names I've forgotten. Good friends of mine. It's fine.
The best of friends.
Who always do talk about stories as someone wants something by time, using method, but can't get it because.
Right.
And so that's a good way to think about what your protagonist wants. What do they actually want? And then, but what is stopping them? So that's one of the things I apply. And the other thing is obviously flaws and twists. So I'm a florist, but also I'm a mob doctor. That is a strong character because you've taken something very typical and added the opposite to it. And I think those characters are really fun. Or a flaw or what we call pain points. So something that your character is willing to take a bullet for, something your character hates enough that it will drive the story. Because you basically want to give your GM stuff that they can push you with.
Yes.
So your flaw might be always has to boast or can't resist a deal or something like that. And then what you're doing is you're giving your GM something to take and drag you around with.
Yes, actually, fun enough, we've spoken about it a bit before, but the game that Ross is running, Carbon 2187, one of them. Ross will correct me immediately in the chat. But in that, actually, the character generation had a D100 table that if you wanted to, you could roll randomly, and it had loads of things like can't form relationships with a human, or like can't stop eating microwave burgers, and you're like, it's quite interesting. And obviously, we have talked about the Pathfinder as well. Some of the background quirks can be quite useful because they can also give a little direction, and then you can kind of wax lyrical a bit more about what that. 2185. Yeah, there we go. I told you. So we give a bit more background. So give a bit more background about the sort of character. And also, I also like to leave a nice questions in the backstory. So do the backstory, but rather than wrap it up tighter than a tight little bundle of sort of like descriptive joy, leave it quite loose. So like, yeah, this happened, but I mean, it's up to you.
I don't know who.
Yeah, here's a cool name, but who knows what happened to them? It's quite nice.
I think that's really good. I like that someone should always have something they'll take a bullet for. That's something I like quite a lot. Which is because even if your character is kind of a loner type, there should be yes, member of the Danger Club. Is that even if it's I have this book, I have this memory, that is a thing that I'm desperately bonded to. Again, it's about giving your character reasons to be in the story, and
yes,
ways to increase the tension. So the great thing is if I have a player who's not really engaged, I'll be like, and this person is your son, or here is a puppy. Like, I will always give them something small and fragile that they must protect.
Ah, yes. Yes, it's become known as the drum maneuver in the DCP circles, where it's just like, there is a child in peril, and you guaranteed, flashpoint, he just, he can't, because of course he's in full dad mode, and he is a wonderful father. So, and the cruel DM, I can't remember his name right now, but has been known to play upon that little trigger. But yes, indeed. And, well, interesting enough, what do you think? Let's play a game. Dun, 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 dun. We're going to play What's in a Name? That's right, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, thee and them, and all the dangerlings. We welcome to the first and only edition of What's in a Name? With our first contestant, Naomi. There we go. Lovely.
Me on today.
Absolutely lovely. And Naomi is from Farnborough, and she works in a dairy. Polishing bottles. So there we go. So I'm gonna say to you some names, and I want you to try and divulge what character class these names belong to see if it's a trope. Because sometimes I shall explain why I'm doing this after I've done the quiz. So here we are. The first name. Are you ready, Naomi from Farnborough?
I'm ready. My little child needs a new leg, and this money will help pay for an important surgery.
Don't worry, I know someone who'll give you all his money just to serve that child. Right, and moving on to the first name. Alicia Badsong. What?
Alicia Badsong. Badsong says bard. Alicia says maybe like elf druid.
Ooh, okay. Which one?
If we're talking like fantasy specific.
Yes. So which one? So it's one class, and what class would you pick for Alicia Badsong?
I think it's going to have to be bard, because a bard is the only person who would name themselves Badsong.
Ah, you are correct. 1 point for Naomi. Dun, 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 dun. Well done. The second name, the Mighty Throbacks.
Okay, that's a barbarian.
Yes.
That's like a dwarf barbarian.
Yes, it's sort of like, I've left it open, but it's a sort of, that is definitely a barbarian. Well done. You have 2 points. Dun, 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 dun. We have Krista Nickenstuff.
That's like a wizard name. I don't like Krista as a name.
Yes.
Because I feel like you've either got to be like, it's Crystal, or you've got to like mess it up some more, you know?
Yes,
like
absolutely.
Krista feels like a halfway point in a name for me.
So you're saying that Krista Nickenstuff is a wizard.
Oh, sorry, Nickenstuff. I thought you said Wiggenstuff, and I was like, obviously.
Wiggenstuff. No.
It's a rogue, because you said nicking stuff.
It is a rogue. Well done. I thought I was going to get... you were going to get one wrong. But no, Krista Nickenstuff, that is a rogue. So there we go, rogue name. Okay, so here we go for our fourth name. Dango leaf berries.
A druid.
Yes, straight out there. Well done. It is a druid. 4 out of 4. And we're moving on.
This is called nominative determinism. And it's the idea that your name encourages to do one thing. So if your last name is Leafberry, you're going to be like, well, I feel like that's a druid. And everyone's like, you sound like a druid. And then you're like, well, I guess I'll be a druid.
There we go. So this is the tactic of you have to come up with a name, and I will explain why I'm talking about this after this. So here we are. Our final name. Can you get 5 out of 5? Okay. Hurath Iron Fist.
Iron Fist. Say it again.
Hurath Iron Fist.
Dwarf Cleric?
Is that your final answer?
No. Paladin. Paladin.
Ah, very good. Nope.
Yeah.
They were just a wanker.
What was it?
Right. So unfortunately, 4 out of 5 there. The last one was a comedy. Of course, you can't be a wanker.
My small child is going to be legless for the rest of their life.
Don't worry, because your small child, you're taking home tonight a leaded crystal vase, which your small child can use as a terrible, terrible leg replacement. Well done for playing What's in a Name? Roll the credits. Roll the credits.
Just like streaming full of tears and a small child glimpse on Mother, are we going to have a Christmas? Not this year, little Timmy. Not this year.
I'm going to try and bake this leaded crystal vase and maybe cut little bits off it. It burns. So yeah. D&D Christmas. So in terms of the reason why I did that, now that was very interesting because you immediately picked up on what I was going for there, because sometimes, especially if it's like a one-shot or something like that, I will come up with a name first. Now, they usually aren't that obvious, because obviously I really went for it just so you have an idea. But, sometimes, have you ever done that, where you ever sort of thrown a name at the wall and been like, who does that feel like?
So I do the opposite thing, which is I'm like, I want to create a character whose flaw is this. And then I go onto a baby names website and I find a name in the sort of vibe that I'm looking for that means something similar.
Okay, so give us an example. Not a literal example, but...
So I had a character called Mara, which means sorrow in Hebrew. And I was like, this is a character who's going to hell and she's going to be really sad. And I like finding that. So in the script that I'm writing at the moment, I have a character called Niathi, which means fate, because of her role in the grand plot. And I think this is kind of a nerd sort of anthropologist classicist sort of way of doing it.
I like it though. That's really cool because that's a lovely name as well.
Yeah. So if you don't know, Naomi in the Bible, which is where my name comes from, which is Hebrew, previously she was called Mara. She was like, I'm going to call myself Mara because I'm sad and I've been deserted. So it's a name that I'm quite familiar with.
Aww.
Naomi, the first emo in the Bible.
The first emo in the Bible, that is right. And it's also quite nice to base your names slightly. If they're going to be an important character, obviously, you can't have someone called Peter's through thunder chutney. I mean, you could do, but immediately that's got sort of comedic undertones, which is quite tempting to do in fantasy because you're just like, anything goes. But actually having a name that's sort of rooted in actual human culture, I think it rings slightly better, doesn't it?
Yeah, and I think that there's lots of really interesting names out there, and I think that
hi Steph, by the way.
That etymology is quite interesting as well, and then you can be like ha ha ha, and it also means that anybody who Googles the name gets a secret hint, which is quite fun.
Nice, yeah, and I love little
a little Easter egg.
Little Easter eggs, yes, exactly. What was my 5e name? My 5e name was based on a comedy wrestling game that we played when we went to Whitstable. So, and also kind of carried on into the campaign. It was very silly, very silly. But yeah, no, it's really interesting to hear that sort of the the sort of etymologist's kind of approach. Because also, of course, I don't know if anyone knows this, but things like the Dothraki language in the television series of Game of Thrones, there are people who come up with languages. And Tolkien was very keen on this as well. Because if you just go, everyone knows it's just complete bollocks. But it actually...
I think you'll find that Lord of the Rings is actually just a vehicle for linguists. Like this, it's not really a story. It's about the languages, and then the story sort of wraps around it.
Yeah, it really is. He loved that stuff. But there is because he went in and actually, from that kind of linguist kind of aspect, and once a language is constructed properly, it actually fits together and sounds right. Rather than just like... Why would anyone know the Dothraki language? Apparently, some people you can actually learn the Dothraki language and Klingon.
People do. And Klingon, which is a common one.
Yeah, an absolute classic.
Because that's a con language, is like a fake language. And the thing is because they often partially based on a couple of other languages, so they use like different grammar and different ways of speaking. And so Elvish particularly has like a load of dialects as well.
Ah, what sort of like the Japanese kind of way of, you've got a very honorific way of speaking, you've got a sort of normal way of speaking, and then a sort of insulting way of speaking.
More like
probably
the way that both Scots and English people speak English, but those are quite different languages in the way that we use words and like the way that we speak about them. So there's some words that are like language specific, so those are both dialects. England is fascinating because it's a really tiny country with heaps and heaps and heaps of dialects.
Oh, yes.
And it wasn't even like the official language of England until like the 1600s. So the official language of England was French, thanks to Norman the Conqueror.
Norman
and
the Conqueror?
The Hanovers spoke German.
I'm Norman the Conqueror.
Norman.
Norman. William the Conqueror, you mean? Sorry.
Thank you. William the Conqueror, who was a Norman and spoke Norman French.
There we are, yes.
There we go.
Oh, that's so cool, Steph. She tried to reach it is beautiful. Like, he did such an incredible job. And I actually think it's one of the reasons why, it struck such a chord, because you were like, wow, these are whole cultures that I really want to know about, and then, it's absolutely beautiful.
Extreme levels of world building.
Is it as detailed as Tolkien as far as languages? Well, I mean, certainly that's why I think, of course, English is usefully and able to adaptable to a sort of like the worldwide use, because it is just a complete bastardization of so many different languages, and we've borrowed so many words, and as you say,
is a language that beats up other languages and in alleyways and steals their grammar. Absolutely,
yeah, nicks their good words, and we're like, we'll have that, thanks very much, and then we'll change the meaning of it, and then we'll say your word's rubbish. It's like, what? But oh yes, try to reach myself. I think we got that as well. Well done. I'm always in awe of our amazing community and the cool stuff they do. I mean, I was rolling dice and being an idiot, not doing thing. Fulton's language is extensive, Ross. That is true. Nigh and pocket, meat and cheese. Should have got
all the words you need, really.
All the words you need, yeah. I'd love to see Fulton's sort of dwarvish to common, sort of translation book. As you say, anything you want means pocket meat.
I don't want to talk about anybody's pocket meat on this stream.
Oh, good Lord, no. Good Lord, no. Well, this has been so much fun. It is actually 7 o'clock. It has flown by. Absolutely flown by, as Dangerous Wednesdays tend to do. Yeah, I know, right? So thank you so much to all of the Dangerings who's joined us. Thank you so much to Ross. I'm afraid you left in the chat just because it would have... Well, I'll explain afterwards. It was a technical reason why I couldn't easily add you to the stream. And also, I wanted to give Naomi a good old shot in the chair because it's been so much fun having you on, Naomi, as ever. You are becoming quite a stalwart guest.
I'm here. I do things with Danger Club people. It's cool.
You do.
We've had basically all of you on our podcast now, so.
Yeah, we have. You have, and thoroughly enjoyed all of it. Where do I get a yellow sweater, Naomi?
I mean, put that in the chat when I remember what the name of the shop is called. It was a present from my mother. Very
good. Well, we shall put that on the chat in, I should probably, I don't know, actually you could put a DCP chat or you could put it in the Foxy chat, of course.
Do it now. I'll find it.
She's going to find it. Right, there we go. Bearing in mind that B Daddy is in Georgia, so he's quite some way away. But who knows?
It
Maybe.
is one of those. It is one of those very English shops.
Ah,
It's next to a
like
sports
Marks and
shop.
Spencers.
It's like Marks and Spencers. It's a Marks and Spencers type deal. Where is the thing? I will find it. Cover the gap. Cover the gap.
Cover the. Oh, right. I was. Do you know what? I was just lulled, and also I can see that Ross is playing Miles Morales.
Very good.
Yes, apart from me, but
Very
I was
strong.
ill. So yes, we are going to track down the silver sweater. My God, that sounds like the most boring superhero ever. I am the silver sweater, or the most unpleasant.
Matalan.
Matalan. There we go.
There we go.
Probably.
I knew I had it. I was like, it's in that place, and I had to go to a map.
Did you have to go to a Mapalan?
Mapalan.
Yes, so you too will be able to get your own yellow sweater and be quite the dandy over there in Georgia. That would be terrific. And yes, and also Naomi. Now I know we do this quite often. I don't have a cool trailer that I did that you kindly asked me to do for your show. But
That's
where can we get more Naomi?
Okay, so you can find me all over the internet at Naomi Thinks It. So I'm on Twitter. I'm on stream. I'm planning on streaming on like Thursday nights.
What?
Yes,
No,
I'm going to stream every time. It's fine. It's fine.
No, I don't stream then, so you're allowed.
Yeah, Matalan is correct.
Yes.
And I am on Power Word Roll, which is the podcast I do, so you can find us at powerwordroll.co.uk, or I'm writing the script at the moment for The Secret of St. Kilda, which you can find at The Kilda.
Yes, there we go. So these are all the places you can find, and just again, it is at Naomi Thinks It. As generally, that handle will open up a world of Naomi and yellow sweaters and glorious scripts. And hopefully, we can have a guest spot with Glax one day. Maybe we should do that on a musical brunch, which of course is over on my Twitch channel, which is twitch.tv/Foxy_Lockhart, where you can come and join us tomorrow for musical brunch at 12 o'clock GMT. 12 o'clock? 12 p.m. GMT. And yes, please have a regular stream. Well, it was lots of fun. We have had one stream, and yay! And Thursday nights could be the hot one. Maybe even I shall come along again because it was so much fun with wobbly-handed surgeons. We were terrible.
We were terrible.
Absolutely terrible, but we cared not. Tweet us lawsuits.
Why would anyone buy clothes in England? Because that's where our clothes are. You know what shipping's like? Shipping's expensive.
Shipping is expensive, and also this is a cold country a lot of the time. So yeah,
I'm being roasted for my jumper choices. I'm very upset.
No. A B Daddy absolutely.
I won't come back.
No, I can tell you now that the B Daddy thinks you're terrific, and tweet us clothes. Yes, so we shall get some jumpers. So thank you so much for joining us, Naomi. Any last words?
Bibble bobble, extreme.
Bibble bobble, extreme. And I'd just like to point out that this entire stream, I thought you had a lovely pair of sparkly blue earrings on, and it's not. It's the little flashing lights.
Yeah.
Dirk. And of course, it is goodbye from me, James Foxy Lockhart. Look after yourself, stay safe, keep an eye on the Danger Club podcast, and obviously on all of the things that we do. It's been so much fun having you, and yes, we shall see you very soon. So stay dangerous. Laters.
Bye.